6th, 2022. Land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that Grand Bay-Westfield exists on traditional Woolstook Way land. The lands of the Wabanaki people are recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties to establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. The river that runs by our town is known as the Woolstook, along which live the Woolstook, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. Item number 2, record of attendance. Let the record show that we have full attendance tonight. Item 3, PAC minutes of May 2nd, 2022. Can I have a motion to accept as presented PAC meeting minutes of May 2nd, 2022?
I move that we accept the minutes of May 2nd, 2022.
Seconder?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, regular council meetings of April 25th and May 9th. Can I have a motion to receive and file the regular council meeting minutes of April 25th, 2022 and May 9th, 2022?
So moved.
Seconder?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chairman's remarks are we are moving item 8 to item 9 and item 8 up to 8. That makes sense?
8 to 9 and 9 to 8.
Thank you. Are there any members who have a conflict with tonight's agenda? No? Good. Item 7 is variance application lot frontage of Madeline Shipley subdivision, Inglewood Drive, Hamilton Road. Is there anyone to speak in favor of tonight's application?
I'm going to speak in favor.
Okay, can you come up to the podium, please? Please state your name, address, and the purpose of your application, please.
My name is Joshua Morgan. Address is 7 Hamilton Road. And purpose is I'd like to create a building lot, split that's about 0.6 acre, and like split it into what was it? One of them would be 0.3, one of them would be 0.28 of an acre, 2 lots. And then I would need the variance because it only has about 5-6 meters of road frontage on Inglewood side.
Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Do you have anything to add? No? Good. Looks like there's no one here to speak about the opposition, so I guess we'll move forward. And can I have a motion to move that the Planning Advisory Committee can grant a variance of 18.47 meters to reduce the minimum required frontage on Inglewood Drive from 23 meters to 4.58 meters for the creation of one new building lot through a boundary adjustment subdivision plan between PID number 30064-893 and PID number 227132, while meeting minimum lot areas for each new property.
I'll make the motion, Mr. Chair, noting that the requested variance is in keeping with the general intent of the zoning bylaw and having read the development officer's report, so I'll make the motion.
Okay, seconder?
I'll second.
Contrary?
Mr. Chair, just before the vote, there should be that we do have one email that did come in opposition, but they're not here to represent.
Yes, for the record, we have one letter of opposition from Kathy McGowan, just stating that she was not in favor of it. And that's the only comment.
No valid reason.
No rationales.
She never gave a reason. She just said she was not in favor of it. So. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Contrary? You have your motion, you can speak to David and move forward.
Perfect, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Item 8, application for subdivision, 3 new building lots, Hamilton Development Group, St. John, SJ Limited. And yes, is there anyone to speak for tonight's in favor of tonight's application? I guess not. There's no one present to speak for or against the applicant. So,
I should mention, David said earlier that this actually should be just one lot. Because it's gonna be,
yeah.
Yeah.
So with the motion, can I have a motion, well, we're not making a motion for the lot, we're just doing it for the recommendation for the money and,
That's right.
that's right.
yeah.
That's right. That actually counts.
Yeah. So can I have a motion that the planning advisory committee recommend the council to accept payment of $294.90 money in lieu of land for public purposes for the creation of one new building lot out of PID number 219659 on Brandy Crescent, with approval of the final subdivision plan by the development officer will be subject to payment of $294.90 cash, money order, certified check, or debit for land for public purposes and confirmation of new civic addresses through Canada Post and NB 911 to be recorded on the final subdivision plan. Can I have a motion?
Before the vote, I'll just make one point about the point of adding the civic numbers on the plan. That is a requirement, so we get it on the registered plan,
Yeah.
civic numbers, but it will affect the other homes on the street, because the existing numbering goes from the last house before the development is 6, and the next house after the development is 8. So there's no room in that. So we are working with NB 911 and Canada Post, and it's proposed that the numbers for the 3 units will be 8, 10, and 12, reserving number 14 for possible house next to this one, and then all of the other homes in the even number range would go up by an increment of 10. So number 8 now would become 18, and 12 would become 22.
So where they're on the same lot, it wouldn't go A, B, C or something?
That is, if we had one number to work with and it was that one
Okay,
property. we could
But you have to
done
make
that,
an
but we
adjustment.
would have still had to come to somebody.
okay.
And this way, at least if you're number 8 and you become 18, it's easier to get a different number to work with. So 8 will become 18, 10 will become 20, 12 will become 22, 14 will become 24. There are a couple other vacant lots around the corner, and if they were to be redeveloped in some way, we either change numbers again or delineate the situation. And we did do that on Murray Street, and it was just one number for the 2 units that were built.
So Heather, I think you have all that?
Yes.
Can I have a motion, please?
So,
You're making the motion? Okay. Seconder?
Second.
Questions on the motion? All those in favor? Contrary? All right.
I don't see.
Item 9 is Dylan Consulting.
we'll start,
Are you trying to admit someone?
But that's usually.
Down at the bottom where it says,
Participants.
no, your participant is only one.
Right there, yeah, go to participants.
But it's only one, which is you. Left.
Left of the green square. One more, go, over one more.
Yeah, that's you.
So she's not there. She's not there. Oh, there
Oh, there she is.
No,
We'll take a
yeah,
second.
there she is, she's waiting.
Just
Yeah.
go, yeah.
So click on her name. And admit.
Admit, yeah.
Yeah.
You should be able to enlarge it.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. There you go.
Jennifer,
Hello.
we have sound.
Can you hear us?
No reaction, so no.
Guess not.
Our video's not on.
Start the video.
That's ours, isn't it?
But you probably have to join it here.
Yeah, click on
Can you hear us
join
now?
audio.
Audio. Join with computer audio.
Can you hear us now?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Thank you.
No,
No,
she was just
It's
sharing.
not perfect.
She's sharing her screen.
Okay. I'm assuming, does the silence indicate that's my turn?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're ready for you guys.
Okay. Well, thank you everyone for having me. I do apologize for not being able to be there in person, but hopefully we'll be able to get through it tonight relatively quickly in comparison to last week. Just to give you a background on what we did last week, we reviewed the majority of the draft subdivision bylaw update. In terms of the updates to the document that are in the document that's in the package this evening, there's the primary sections of update are the application section where we look to ask developers for stormwater system details. We wanted to also look at adding an option for asking for a traffic impact study or a traffic impact statement at the DO development officer discretion. We also wanted to remove the option to refund an abandoned application. Under the responsibilities of the subdivider, we wanted to add additional provisions to support tree planting / landscaping in general through the specs if possible. We also wanted to point to that flood overlay zone when discussing anything around minimum elevation. Lands for public purposes was another big one. We want the request was to set the priority for cash in lieu and also set the standards for how market value is determined. So it was discussed that it will be determined through the best available data, which is currently through the assessment data through Service New Brunswick. We also created some language in there that allows for an applicant to essentially challenge that calculation through an appraisal. So tonight we're going to make sure that we cover the last two sections that we didn't get to last time, and then we'll do a very quick overview of Schedule A, which is essentially the technical specifications for subdivision, which really deals with infrastructure installation. So the highlights of that Section 9 municipal facilities, it provides direction on the reasonable provisions of future services. So right now we're looking at municipal sanitary in some parts of Grand Bay-Westfield, and obviously roads and stormwater. Stormwater would include in this particular case, we're looking at pipes, but also culverts that all would be lumped into under municipal facilities. So in this section is where we get into the performance bond to support that installation of future services. Should they require kind of future services to be extended over multiple phases. And it also provides that direction around execution of a developer's agreement. So very straightforward there in terms of facilities. And then the last kind of key section we have in that subdivision bylaw is around approvals. This is where we talk about the requirement that PAC review before council approval. So there was some discrepancy over kind of the depth of your review, which we tried to rectify through this set of amendments in both the subdivision bylaw as well as the specs. So there are some opportunities here to make sure that the problem areas that you folks are seeing in your role, that you have the backbone in the document to review it. So things like stormwater management issues and how to deal with that, we've ironed that out a little bit in the document, but also the Schedule A, which we'll get to here shortly. We also essentially are looking at ensuring that developers agreements are drafted and executed to be effective upon the approval of the subdivision plan. So running these things concurrently. I know the focus from council is to make development or to create and foster a sense of a welcoming environment for developers, and that was the focus of these kind of the improvements to language around approvals. The other thing that the subdivision approval section does is ensure that 100% of that cost to complete the installation of required services is deposited with the municipality. So this is where you kind of have your fail-safe moment there. Any questions around section 9 or section 10? No? Okay. Moving on to Schedule A. So Schedule A is really about the standard specifications for developers. So this is where it sets out the responsibility of the developer in the town around designing streets and municipal infrastructure. And I think the important thing to consider here is that these are minimum standards. Each project's evaluated on its own merits. There's a lot of room for kind of adjustment with respect to scale, but there's not a lot of room for adjustment in terms of responsibility. So this is where the pushback to the developers becomes a bit stronger around designing public streets, for example, and hooking into existing services. So before we kind of dive into those technical requirements, just a note, I think it's important to remember the construction methods haven't really changed since Schedule A was last updated. So in saying that how a street is installed, for example, the materials are generally the same, the method required by the town doesn't need to change. I think we're looking at Schedule A being improved from the lens of stormwater management specifically, in terms of what has room to kind of grow, adapt, and change. I think the key here is that the municipality over the next few years, as part of their kind of response to climate change adaptation and just in general development, there needs to be a bit of a comprehensive approach to stormwater management. And once that approach is determined, that will further update this Schedule A, because we're kind of in a situation that we can't have one without the other. So we've added language in Schedule A to support more robust requirements around stormwater management at the application stage. But in terms of a broader integrated system, I think that goes into another bucket. So Schedule A is presented in 4 what are called divisions, just 4 sections. You've got general information, street systems, sanitary sewer, and storm runoff control system. Before I move forward, just another caveat: if at some time down the road the municipality decides to invest in piped water, all of those requirements will also sit in the Schedule A. But for now, where you don't have them, there is some vague language that leaves it open so that if water is installed somewhere, you can still manage without having to do kind of robust amendments, so just keep that in mind. In terms of general information, the general information section is purely just outlining those rules and standard procedures around review and inspection, and setting the expectation for who reviews and who inspects. There's some information around standards of approval, as well as hours of work. So there is some room there to allow for council discretion if there's kind of a pressing development or an issue that has come up where work outside of the 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. is permitted. Also, really, this general information division just really operates as primarily the administrative chapter. In terms of the street system section, it really is that descriptive of the requirements of the general scope of work for streets and provides those technical requirements for design, materials, and construction methods. Sanitary sewer section, again, general scope of work for pipe sanitary systems, including lift stations. And again, design, materials, and construction methods all in there. Septic, just to note that septic systems are regulated by the province, so you're not going to see anything in here about that specifically. Storm runoff control system, again, general scope of work for what constitutes the stormwater control system. There's 2 systems currently active in Grand Bay-Westfield. You have your open channel flow system, which is your culvert ditch system. And then you have your closed storm drainage system. That's where you're looking at your catch basins, your storm sewer piping, connection laterals, etc. Most of the development, you're seeing specifically around residential development falls into that open channel flow system. Your closed storm drainage system will probably evolve mostly off of that kind of commercial mixed use area around River Valley Drive, and as well as your kind of the area where the services exist, the pipe services exist. So in terms of kind of future management of those areas, there's a couple things we can do here to kind of rectify some of the issues that PAC has had to deal with in the past. So we've introduced new language to require the developer to avoid downstream flooding or aggravating existing downstream flooding issues, which is something you're running into a bit here at PAC over the last year or so. There's also a discretionary requirement to request a capacity analysis of the existing storm drainage system as part of the subdivision application. So that discretion lies with, it can lie with David. So there's also a situation where you may receive an application at PAC and decide to table the application to request something like this. It's likely going to be the exception, not the rule here, but it does give you the language to ask for it. And there's some updated language to ask for developers to submit a storm drainage report as part of a subdivision application. So understanding that runoff is a pressing issue and it's something that brings a lot of the public out to subdivision application reviews and meetings, we want to make sure that the developer has a bit more information walking to it, and also that they provide the town with a more robust application so that you can make a more informed decision. Very brief overview. So what we're doing in terms of the process. So what we're sitting at now is your second session with the subdivision bylaw. Should everything kind of feel like it's wrapped up this evening, it can proceed to council. But there is, I mean, there's no emergency here. It's just, if there's things to update, I think we take the time to update it and make sure we've got it right before it moves on to council for that bylaw reading.
The sense was that we thought that we were bringing the 3 bylaws together and the zoning bylaw and the municipal plan bylaw have received the first and second readings, so we delayed the third reading to bring the subdivision plan forward. And it would be, everything is ready, we would have the first, second readings of the subdivision bylaw on June 13th, and then do all of the 3 readings at the next council meeting following. Or whatever that first date is, maybe it is June 20, whatever, but that brings them all together at the same time, at least by the beginning of July. I do have an example of what you were just speaking about, Jennifer, about looking at the downhill effects of the stormwater management, and with the panoramic estates, that was a really big concern at the very beginning. We had ditches along Williston Drive, cross culverts of a certain size, and it was just wood, so it was impacted by drainage out of those woods down onto Williston Drive. So introducing the streets, first of all, opens up a lot of territory that had trees, but it does direct the water onto the road, and sizing the pipes for that substantial grade on June and Florence it did a lot of work to make it so that it would be able to handle the flow and not impact beyond Williston Drive through basically where we're at the moment with the development in Panoramic is we're at the crest, and future street development is going to start directing water off the other side of the hill. But that is the role of trying to determine what the infrastructure that we have can handle.
Kelly, you look like you have a question.
I do have a question, Mr. Chair. Wondering if this new application that was submitted this evening, if they will fall under these new subdivision bylaws once they're approved by council, or because they submitted prior to this being approved, will they fall under the old ones?
It is being concluded under the existing bylaw, and it will be concluded before the new one is in place. There really wouldn't be any difference. Again, we didn't have any street development. We looked at the lot sizes based on the size of the building that they were looking at. That with setbacks from the water course through environments review for the buffer. It's not introducing storm water system to an existing system. So it would really be looked at differently, but it will be approved under the existing bylaw.
Because that's the flood overlay plan will be.
Yeah, this one didn't have any impact from the flood overlay, so.
Any more questions for Jennifer? Guess not. Can I have a motion? Please.
So when we're making a motion, Mr. Chair, just for clarification, we're moving to recommend that we proceed to the next step in the process. That's all we're doing, is just recommending that we move to the next step.
Recommending that it goes to council. We'll still have the hearings, two meetings for hearings for council's approval. Jennifer will be presenting it probably again to council.
make the motion that we recommend to council that we proceed with the draft bylaw enactment process.
I'll second.
Questions on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Motion passed. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everyone.
You too.
Thank you.
And the only other item we have is adjournment, item 10.
So moved.